Good evening, people. This is Roger Thunder with the Red Road in the Red Room. I'm hunkered down in the Red Room here. I love it. It's nighttime. I got the red infrared or whatever you want to call it cast in here from the light, which is really just an orange light that looks like a campfire, but that's okay. I like the coziness of it. Well, today I'm going to broach the subject of the history of the Hopi ancient flying machines. This is much needed right now because I see the UFO community going off on all kinds of tangents, following the government, following this person and that person, and the whistleblowers. And man, I got a lot to say about that, but I don't want to bore you right now. And I know people jump in on videos, and if they hear somebody talk, well, no, they just go somewhere else. So I'm going to jump into a slide presentation about the real UFOs, the real ancient UFOs, and the ancient Star Nation and the indigenous people, like the Hopi, and the Hindu people, and everybody in history who have known about these ancient flying machines and that have been around a long time and are a tradition of many cultures across the globe. So let's start with the venerable Hindu texts such as the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Ancient texts, okay? And what they do is they describe airships, and these airships are called Vimanas. Vimanas. And here's a picture of one. Here's an illustration. And there's been many illustrations and there's many old paintings, but I find that this is really a good illustration of what they called flying vehicles or Vimanas. And these were even used in battle. These were actually from the texts, it describes them as being used in battle as well. Now, if you go to the Egyptian temple at Abydos, 3,000-year-old temple at that, you will find depictions there of what appear to be modern airplanes and helicopters. And this is taken from the wall there. So if you look up here, now keep in mind, 3,000 years old here, what do you see? Well, you see a helicopter. You see some kind of flying vehicle here. There's all kinds of pictures in here that indicate ancient flying machines. Ancient flying machines, no doubt about it. So this is interesting, wouldn't you say? But that's not the only thing. There are other cultures and other civilizations. Take, for instance, the grooved stone discs found in caves on the Chinese-Tibetan border that tell of an extraterrestrial race called the Dropas. The Dropas, Dropas, whose spacecraft fell to Earth 12,000 years ago. But the real thrust of this video is going to be the Hopi people and the Star Nation and their association with the Star Brothers. And if you look at this map here, this is the Hopi mesas. And this is where the Hopi settled in Arizona on these three primary mesas. And why did they do this? And why did they build things in this pattern? It's because of their association with Orion's belt and the three stars in Orion's belt. And so they patterned their villages or the places that, they built to live, their civilization, on the mesas in Arizona. And this is near Flagstaff, and this is near the San Francisco Peaks, and this is near Sunset Crater, and then you have Meteor Crater. And this is all relevant, which we will get into later. But the name that they had for the star people was actually the star elders, because they looked at them as people that were very, very wise and advanced, very advanced. Now this is a picture of what the Hopi call flying shields, or Patuwvota. And the Patuwvota existed in the Third World, which was a previous epoch destroyed by an immense flood. But needless to say, these were featured in Hopi lore and were referred to many, many times in stories and in, well, let's just say their tradition and their oral tradition and that type of thing. Now, this was a time when there were great cities and civilization was flourishing, and there were all kinds of settlements everywhere in the Southwest and down into New Mexico, New Mexico and Mexico. And you had a flourishing trade route. Everything was flourishing. Everything was very advanced in a way. And so I found this picture here of some of the descendants of the migration, probably. And this was a village, a Hohokam village, right near a place where I used to live. In fact, if you look at this painting, they actually have the mountains around the area that I used to live called the Papago Mountains. And this is, if you see my pointer here, on this side was Scottsdale, Arizona, modern day, and then over here would be the Phoenix area. And then out here in this district would be closer to the Southwest Mountains, and in between them and the Papago Mountains, and you had ancient settlements, which I have actually visited and viewed, and viewed the diggings and the pottery and the unearthing of walls and that type of thing. And it's very, very, let's say, in my mind, it's very vivid. I remember it to this day, even though I was a kid. But let's get back to the matter at hand, which is the flying discs and the advanced technology. Now, in an address to the that was delivered to the United Nations, a guy named Thomas Banyaka of the Hopi Coyote clan made a statement, and his statement was, the people invented many machines and conveniences of high technology, some of which we have not yet been seen in this age, or which have not yet been seen. So we, of course, recognize this as maybe a startling description, as maybe echoes of Atlantis even. But let's talk about some legends now, some stories and legends from back in that time. In one legend, the flying shield is associated with Soktuk-Nong, the Hopi sky god. And just threw up this image I found in here, which could represent him. Again, he was the Hopi sky god. And the story goes that apparently there was a devastating flood that had destroyed this city called the Red City. And some of these names, you'll have to bear with me. I don't speak Hopi, but I believe the pronunciation is Patuwvota. Patuwvota. And this is located in the Red Rock country near Sedona, Arizona. So the story goes that there was a brother named Patuwvota and his sister, now this is a hard one, Tawia Isnima. And they were forgotten in this chaos of this devastating flood. Everybody, fled the scene. And they were left behind by their parents. They were all alone. So being left behind, they set out on a journey to find their parents. And one evening, they decided to make camp. They were just opening their bundle for dinner when they heard a great roar overhead. The children obviously were very frightened or wondering what this strange thing could be. And the brother held his sister tightly to his breast as a fantastic being descended from the heavens. Now I found this illustration that might kind of represent what they might have been going through when they first heard this rumbling and thunder and things of that nature, and when they saw this being descend from above, obviously out of some type of craft. And it was said in this story that his head and face shone like a star. And it looked like he was wearing some kind of costume that they described as glittering like ice. Was it something like this that is depicted in this ancient figurine? Or maybe it was more on this level with a sort of glimmering suit and a face that shone like a star, maybe possibly like a orb, or maybe possibly close to what the Kachina masks look like. Or maybe this picture of some type of ancient, and this is an actual carved figurine of an ancient astronaut or an ancient alien or an ancient star elder. So anyway, his words to this young couple and family were the following: "Do not be afraid. My name is Sotuk Nong. Because of my sympathy for your plight, I have come to help you. Get on my Patuwvota and let us be on our way." He then took them on his flying shield up into the sky so that they could see for many miles around. He fed the hungry children ripe melons and told them that they must have faith in him and his teachings that would later arrive through their dreams. And as the story goes, finally he landed a short distance from the village in which their mother and father had settled. Bidding the young ones farewell, he flew up again into the clouds. Forever grateful to the sky god, the brother and sister walked into the village to be reunited with their parents. Now we'll go back to this picture, and I'll have to explain something here. Because the Hopis had no such thing as a saucer, flying or otherwise, they named it after the cultural accoutrement, accoutrement closest to that shape, namely the warrior's shield. The word Patuwvota specifically signifies this type of shield. Oddly, the concept of war is connected in Hopi ideology with the stars. Maybe that's why they use the shield, because the shield is used in war. The use of Patuwvota, rather than the more common word for disk or circle, suggests a celestial origin for the Patuwvota. Since the Hopi term pa means water, Patuwvota possibly refers to the expanding concentric rings in water. This might be a metaphorical description for the way the peculiar airborne device appeared to function. The related word patuka or spindle may also describe the shield's spinning motion. In addition, the prefix pa denotes wonder or awe. For the people of the desert, water equals wonder, but pa perhaps suggests the reaction to this extraordinary means of transportation. Now, the tradition of the flying shield also appears in rock art or cave paintings, or ancient petroglyph, or rock carvings. Here's one found near Winslow, Arizona, apparently showing a triangular craft, and you can see that here. And the way that they painted entities was similar to this outline here of beings. You see all kinds of beings with maybe just one eye, or one being with 3 eyes, or things of that nature. So that's what was found on a rock carving near Winslow, which incidentally is one of my favorite areas that I like to go to. There's a great, fantastic old Spanish-style hotel there called La Posada. I highly recommend it. In his book, Mexico Mystique, Frank Waters, a non-Indian expert on the Hopis, wrote something interesting. On Second Mesa, and this is a quote, on Second Mesa near Mishonovi, an ancient petroglyph depicts a dome-shaped object resting on an arrow. I don't have a picture of this, so you're just going to have to visualize it. A dome-shaped object resting on an arrow, which represented travel through space, and it also had the head of a Hopi maiden who represents pristine purity. As the Hopis believe that other planets are inhabited, this petroglyph represents a Patuwvota, or a flying shield, similar to a flying saucer that came here in the beginning. So at Emergence, or the end of the fourth world, the sacred ones will arrive from another planet. And we're in the fourth world now, by the way. And this planet is said to be Venus. Now, many Hopi traditionalists recently have reported seeing flying saucers, all piloted by beings they call Kachinas. Some readers may be familiar with the wooden Kachina dolls that the Hopis carve. Here is an example of that. Now, these Kachinas are not gods, but spirits. They're spirits that act as mediators between gods and humans. They may take the form of any animal, plant, celestial body, or otherworldly creature. During the spring and early summer, the Hopis perform a ceremonial cycle of masked Kachina dances as a plea for rain and the general well-being of the tribe. The more correct spelling is Katsina. It's interesting, the Hebrew word for officer in the Bible is Katzin. Much like the fallen angels or the watchers of the Bible, the Kachinas were sometimes known to mate with Hopi women. This kind of prefigures the contemporary theme of alien abduction for the purpose of reproduction. In fact, there's a story about this. One Hopi myth tells of a young bride who accompanies her handsome Kachina husband back to her second mesa village of Mishongnovi on a flying shield. This would be kind of a depiction of the Kachina clans here, and you have all different forms in this picture, including the mud man here. This is what the Hopi people described as their connection to the Star Nation. And again, these people actually appeared, and basically these costumes could represent, if you look at them closely, some type of mask or headgear or spacesuit or something of that nature. But let me get back to the story of the woman that was abducted by the Kachina. So as the shield lifted off, the Kachinas all gave out a boisterous yell. The spectacle was incredible. Every sort of Kachina conceivable was present. All of a sudden, as the couple flew along, flashes of lightning were visible in the air, and the rumble of thunder could be heard. When the shield rose higher, drizzle began to fall. The Kachinas were now accompanying them. Her parents had headed to the edge of the mesa at this time to look out. Looking down from the rim of this mesa, they saw an incredible number of people coming across the plain, and to their great amazement, all were Kachinas, singing and crying out their calls in a pandemonium. This passage is taken from a book called Earthfire, a Hopi legend of the Sunset Crater eruption, co-authored by Eckhart Malotki, a white professor of languages at Northern Arizona University. And here's another name, Michael Lomatuweima. Michael Lomatuweima. I think I got that right. A Hopi from the third mesa village of Hopeville. Again, this was taken from a book called Earthfire, written by them. Now again, the Kachina is associated with the volcanic eruption starting in 1064 AD that created the now extinct Sunset Crater located near the San Francisco Peaks. Another 60 miles farther northeast, a large rectangular rock below the village of Mishongnovi is also known as the House of the Kachina. As the entourage advanced from the Kachina peaks toward Second Mesa, it bore a huge quantity of corn and melons on their backs as gift for the Hopis. This diverse group of divine messengers must have been a stunningly beautiful sight. In fact, the Hopis sometimes refer to Kachinas as the beautiful creatures. This designation emphasizes not only their aesthetically pleasing appearance, but also their role as actual entities in a kinship system. Long ago, the Kachinas were adopted into the clans along with various plants and animals. During the migrations that took place after the Hopi emergence from the underworld, the third world previously mentioned, their presence had clearly been physical or tangible as opposed to like supernatural or ethereal. In other words, their influence was once felt directly on a material level. As time went on, however, social and religious corruption which was a recurring motif in Hopi thought, forced these beautiful and bizarre but benevolent Kachinas to abandon the American Southwest, or let's say not to appear. From that period to the present, Kachinas appear for the most part only in their spirit forms. Some Hopis believe that Kachinas still maneuver these mysterious aircraft. Now let's dive into another story. In his book, The Terra Papers, the Hopi Apache author Robert Morningsky describes how his grandfather and 5 other men were camping in the desert in August of 1947, shortly after the infamous Roswell incident. And that's when a flying disc streamed across the night sky and crashed. Now, according to this story, these guys that were camping out there, these Hopi, were, from the wreckage, they recovered a silvery alien, unconscious but still alive, whom they named the Star Elder. After that, they nursed it back to health. Then the ET telepathically described by means of a crystal the galactic war raging above, which had downed its spacecraft. Unexplained sightings continue, however. In the summer of 1978, hundreds of UFOs were seen about 125 miles southwest of the Hopi villages near the town of Prescott, Arizona. And incidentally, Flagstaff is around there too. On the evening of March 13th, 1997, in the same vicinity, a delta-wing craft, perhaps as large as a mile across with lights on its leading edges, were spotted drifting silently overhead before speeding off toward the south. And this later became known as the infamous or the famous Phoenix Lights. Here is another photo of the famous Phoenix Lights. Incidentally, I was raised in Phoenix and Scottsdale, like I said before. In 1998, the radio talk show host Art Bell interviewed 2 Hopi elders who stated that their very distant ancestors knew how to travel to other planets. They also said that during the end times, we would be visited by people outside the earth who have an advanced technology. Let me repeat that. During the end times, we would be visited by people outside the earth who have an advanced technology. Now, there's many Hopi wisdom keepers that believe that the increased presence of flying shields signals the end of the Fourth World or our current era. The Kachinas or Star Elders may be trying to warn us of a dire state of affairs. So, by listening to these entities throughout the ages, the Hopi, living on their isolated mesas, have long known the global fate that now seems imminent. Some of the signs and portents are in the skies, and we only need to look up. Just got to look up, people. Now, I think that this discussion that I've been having with you about the history here should really bring home a message, and especially to those in this so-called UFO community that are going around and looking at all these things that have to do with the government, whistleblowers, Senate hearings, SCIFs, secret meetings, military whistleblowers. All this stuff that they're looking at right now is a continual tape loop of lies and deception. They are getting nowhere. The wheels are spinning in the mud. They are getting no traction as far as any kind of disclosure as to what's going on. And this, people, is the real disclosure. This is what people should be paying attention to. This is what people should be researching, because in history, you get answers. And in history, you get truthful answers. And you can go back and see the many correlations of, like, say, the abductions and everything that is happening now, appearing around the planet with orbs and things that people can't explain. I am in the firm opinion right now that the sights and sounds that we're seeing in the skies and the things that are happening on the planet are all correlated, and that the Star Nation and the Star Brothers and Soktuk Nong and the whole crew are still in control, and they are still here. And what they're doing is that they're looking at this planet and shaking their heads with grief. Or maybe they're shaking their heads with anger, if they know that emotion. But it seems to me from the stories that I've read here, and that are actually passed down, true stories, there is a benevolence here. There is a benevolence here. And if that's the case, that there is a benevolence here with these beings, then the people on the planet that are running the governments and creating the wars and creating the division are in big freaking trouble. And if you want my honest opinion, I think that they are scared and wetting their pants. This is the feeling that I have. And all these things flying around over military bases and being explained away as maybe some type of foreign adversary, Russia or China or something like that. It's all hogwash, people. I'm not ruling out that there may be back engineered technology from vehicles. But even in this revelation here, the story of the brothers that are camping in the desert, basically what they're saying is that this alien told him it wasn't us, it wasn't the Earth people that shot them down, or that is the reason that they fell out of the sky and down to the Earth. It was because of a galactic battle. It was because of something that was happening out there, or in another dimension, or wherever. But it certainly wasn't our technology shooting down these discs, all right? They're light years ahead of us. That would never happen. And that reveal is a big one. That this craft was down, and I trust the indigenous people in these stories, that this craft was shot down in Roswell by some galactic battle going on, not by the people on Earth shooting them down. So there's much to be revealed, the benevolence, how back in engineering came to be by something that got downed by a galactic war. I like to stick with the benevolent aspect here because I know that there is such a thing. And so right now we should be looking to guidance as our indigenous ancestors and relatives of this North American continent, the Hopi, the Ute, the Paiute, the Lakota. This is what we should be researching, and there's troves of evidence. So all you UFOers or UFO supposedly community out there, quit chasing your tails around and start looking into history and start looking into real evidence. Not all these trumped up stories about secret, organizations and secret units and secret operations and black operations and all this on and on and on. They keep telling you all this stuff, yet they can't tell you what they're seeing in the skies with this latest Senate hearing, and they're baffled, and they're trying to blame it on each other, and they're trying to blame it on they don't have the right technology. And really, people, if you believe that, you'll believe anything. So anyway, I'm going to end this video today, and if you appreciate the stuff I bring out or the information that I bring to you, it really would help if you would donate something of some order to the link below in the PayPal link, or subscribe to the Red Road Substack, which has a lot of good stuff in it. A lot of great stuff, and you could do a paid subscription to that. That would help me out a lot. I am not on the cutting edge of technology here with what I could be doing with videos, and I could use some additional software and some additional help in that regard, just because I like doing this, and I'd like to at least try. I will never compete with all this AI stuff and filled in music and all this. I'm kind of old school, I get it. But if you like that, throw me a bone. Throw me a bone in the links below. So anyway, I'll just say Wopila, which means thank you, and aho. Until next time, this is Roger Thunder. Adios.